Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. Today we're doing the What's Next on Canelo Alvarez, the undisputed super middleweight champion of the world, following a, deserving, convincing 12-round unanimous decision win over Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, in their third fight. Triple G, that was a unified middleweight champ, moving up in weight. Canelo went in there and just pretty much outworked and outclassed Triple G, who's, obviously not in his prime years anymore, but he's still a very good, very dangerous fighter. And Canelo went out there and just outworked them over 12 rounds to a convincing decision. I don't think it says anything bad about Canelo. Triple G is a Hall of Famer. And as I have said for years, and I'm going to continue to say, when you're a great fighter, even when you're in decline and you're just a good fighter, your good is better than most guys' great, and Triple G was a great fighter who is in decline because of his age, but he's still very good. And that's why he was competitive in the late rounds right there and won a few rounds and did enough to show the judges, two of the judges, that he deserved 5 rounds. I didn't think he won 5 rounds, but he did enough to do that. So, it was a solid performance out of Canelo. Not his best, but, when you're fighting a Hall of Famer with a great chin like that, it's very tough to just go out there and annihilate the guy, even if you're in his prime, in your prime. So, big win for Canelo, and now the big question is what's next for Canelo Alvarez following this win. Now, obviously, we'll get to Dimitri Bivol, the rematch there, if that's a possibility. Obviously, that's probably the front runner. But I want to roll through a couple of the divisions and see what possibly, could be options. As Canelo said, he wants to take some time, rest up his body, and come back next May. So there was no talk at all about what we thought earlier in the year, that Canelo was going to fight in December, and I really don't believe that's going to go down. But let's entertain fights from 160 all the way to 175. We're going to do 160 and 168 real quick. Not every guy, just the ones that potentially could make sense. We start, you saw what he did against Triple G. He's a #1 middleweight. That's not an option. Demetrius Andrade. Now, Andrade's moving up in weight to 168 to fight Zach Parker potentially in November, which would, I think that would make him the WBO interim champion at 168 and put him in line for Canelo. But it's not likely Canelo's going to fight Demetrius Andrade. He has not defeated anybody significant to earn a Canelo fight. So I don't see this one as being a potential option for him. Maybe, you never know. I mean, Canelo could say, fuck it, I'll fight him, I wouldn't, it wouldn't completely surprise me if Canelo fought him, but I don't believe he will, it's got to make a lot of sense. And again, Andrade hasn't defeated anybody to earn that fight, so I don't see it. Jermall Charlo has the name, but has not fought anybody to earn the Canelo fight either. So I don't think, again, it's just like with Andrade, it's possible Canelo could say, fuck it, I'll fight him, let's go, let's do it, he's got a name, I'll fight him right now. But I don't think Canelo's going to do that, because I just don't think Charlo deserves the fight. He hasn't earned it. And I think Canelo would much prefer fighting Dimitri Bivol in a rematch and going after that before he entertains a fight like Charlo. I don't think he wants to let that fight with Bivol slip away from him and go fight a guy like Charlo, which I don't believe anybody's really going to care now even more, because I think people are going to be like, well, if you're a true champion, you should be fighting fighting the guy that defeated you first, at least fighting him again to see if that was a fluke or not. And what has Charlo done? We're not surprised that you beat Charlo. So that's why I think he won't fight him. But again, you never know. I don't think a rematch with Lara is on the table. Even if Chris Eubank were to beat Conor Benn, he's not an option. And, Jaime Munguia has already said he doesn't want to fight other Mexicans. And there's really nobody else at middleweight that has enough of a name to even discuss. So we're going to go to super middleweight. David Benavidez sitting there. I mean, I just don't. And Canelo's made it clear he doesn't want to fight other Mexicans. It bums me out because I'd love a fight with him and Benavidez. But in all honesty, Benavidez hasn't earned it either. He hasn't defeated somebody, and it's not Benavidez's fault. Nobody wants to fight him right now. I hope Benavidez gets the fight with David Morrell. That's going to make him. That would make him the regular champ and the interim champion for the WBC. He'd be the regular champ for the WBA, and that would put him directly in line for the undisputed crown, at least for those two belts against Canelo. But I don't think Canelo wants this fight. You know, he's made it clear he doesn't want to fight Mexicans for some reason, so I'm not seeing that one. You know, John Ryder, I mean, I don't see why Canelo would fight him, you know, unless he was just trying to kill some time ahead of a bigger fight. You know, to me, that fight doesn't make sense, so I don't see why he would do it. But I guess, you know, because he's an Eddie Hearn guy and Canelo's been working with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, I guess it's an option, but I don't think he really gains much from defeating him, so I don't see it. You know, Daniel Jacobs, Caleb Plant, Billy Joe Saunders, those are all guys that Canelo's already defeated, and it would make no sense, and especially Jacobs coming off of the loss to John Ryder anyways. What's the point? So none of those guys make sense. Even Anthony Durrell, if he were to defeat Caleb Plant, which I don't think he's going to in October, I don't think that makes Durrell a possibility for Canelo. I don't think Canelo's really, you know, that fight makes sense for him. So I'd say no. And then really there's nobody else at 168 that I think's worth discussing for Canelo. So now 175. If Canelo returns to 175, there's only one name right now that makes sense, you know, and that's a rematch with Dimitri Bivol. I mean, what other fight, unless, now in all fairness, unless Bivol were to lose to Gilberto Ramirez in that mandatory fight. If he loses the title and Ramirez becomes the champion, Canelo has said he doesn't want to fight any other Mexicans. So that makes all the other guys in the lower weight classes more sense. That makes more sense for Canelo to fight one of those guys instead. But I think Bivol is going to beat Gilberto Ramirez. And I think Canelo is going to want to move back up to 175 to prove that, you know, that he's the better man. He at least has to fight him again. And if Bivol beats him again, then I think Canelo's going to be like, all right, you know, it's not my weight. This guy's just better than me at 175, and that's it. But I think Canelo wants to know that 150%. I don't, you know, and so I think if he returns to 175, it's very likely it's going to be against Dimitri Bivol in a rematch. Now, there is the potential that he could return to 175 and fight somebody, you know, like what's his name? The guy who's in line right now, what's his name wanted to fight? Buatsi. He could fight Joshua Buatsi because he's a Matchroom guy. He could fight him at 175 to kind of test his weight again at 175 before a rematch with Bivol. But I really don't think Canelo wants to waste his time doing that. You know, I think Canelo wants that big fight. I think he wants Dimitri Bivol. And I really believe that that's going to be his next fight in May. I think Canelo's going to be like, hey, it's been a year. Now I have 8 months realistically to get acclimated to the weight, to leave no doubt. And, you know, and I think Canelo's going to do all that he can and work hard. But again, there is a speed bump in Gilberto Ramirez that Bivol's going to have to defeat him at the beginning of November to lock in a possibility of this. If not, and Canelo has to stay at 168, you know, I think he stays at 168 if what's his name, if Ramirez beats Bivol. I think Canelo stays at 168, and then the possibilities of your Andrades and your Charlos and fights like that become very, very viable. So we'll see what happens. But again, if Bivol loses, I wouldn't rule out a fight with Andre then. I think, you know, Andre would be the interim, and he'd be like, hey, I'll fight him, you know, and go from there. You know, I think he's just, he would bide his time to see about 175 again after that. But, yeah, I really think Canelo is probably going to fight Dimitri Bivol, but we'll see what happens. But that's the what's next on Canelo Alvarez, the undisputed super middleweight champion, following his unanimous decision victory over Triple G in their third fight. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.